Hi, I'm Dr. B. Wade, and in this video, I, along with my colleague, friend, and co-founder of Radical Pedagogy Institute, are going to talk about just a few of the curriculum laws we have on the books in New Jersey that allow us to teach truth in our classrooms. While there are many laws that allow us to teach truth, we're going to focus on these four laws, particularly because they have been surrounding some of the pushback we've been seeing across the country in terms of CRT bills as well as LGBT inclusive bills. So in this video, we're going to be talking about Amistad, the LGBT and Disability History and Inclusion Act, the Diversity and Inclusion and Instruction Act, and the Asian American and Pacific Islander History Act. And these bills have been passed somewhere over the last 20 years, with Amistad in 2002 and with the AAPI being the most recent in 2022. And this slide has a breakdown of the bill voting records. So at a later time, if you want to pause and sort of do a notice and wonder about the breakdown of yes, no, and abstains. And you can also click on the bills themselves individually to read their individual text through this slide.
One law all educators should be aware of but also protect is Amistad. Amistad was passed in 2002 and requires the infusion of African American history into the curriculum. Most people do not know there actually is a precursor law back in 1973, which required the teaching of the history of the Negro in the United States in all public schools in New Jersey. Over the last 20 years, Amistad has had a tumultuous history and has not been fully implemented in all public schools across the state. As the timeline shows, it went from moving into a space of needing to create a curriculum to moving out of the Department of the State into the Department of Education to finally in 2018, NJEA really taking up the cause by creating a stakeholder group. We also saw in 2019, again, nearly 20 years after it being passed into law, that the Amistad mandate being a part of the New Jersey Quality Single Accountability Continuum, also known as QSAC, which is the way that all school districts have to report what they're doing on an annual basis. We also saw funding created for the Amistad Journey, which is attached to the curriculum, and a summer institute for teachers. In 2021, Amistad was passed again so that it was not actually in the Department of Education, but of the Department of Education to allow more autonomy and funding on a separate line item.
The next curriculum bill that we should be aware of in the state of New Jersey is the LGBT and Disability History and Inclusions Act. So the law was actually passed in January 31st, 2019. And basically what it said was that each Board of Education must provide instruction on the political, economic, and social contributions of persons with disabilities and lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people in some appropriate place in the curriculum of middle school and high school students, especially as part of the core curriculum content standards and social studies. However, we can use this law to kind of justify why we're talking about these things across the curriculum, not just limited to social studies. So like I said, the law passed in January 31st of 2019 and 2022 to 2021 academic year, which is when the law was set to take effect. Make It Better for Youth and Garden State Equality came together to also create Sample 2S LGBTQIA+ inclusive lessons that teachers could draw from across content areas and grade levels to implement in their classroom. So there would be some sort of resources for teachers to begin implementation. From that point, we have not received much data, or there's not been much conversation about the implementation, but we do want to make sure that our schools are doing this. So being mindful of the curriculum bill is important so that we can continue to push for the teaching of truth in our schools and communities. The next bill that we're going to talk about is the Diversity and Inclusion Act that was passed, and that was passed shortly after, a year after the LGBT and disability curriculum bill, and in March 1st of 2021, set to take effect in 2021-2022 academic year. And basically what this bill requires is that school districts provide instruction on diversity and inclusion as part of the implementation of the New Jersey Student Learning Standards in comprehensive health and physical education for students in grades 9 through 12. And the state, as part of this, the Commissioner of Education is supposed to provide school districts with sample learning activities and resources designed to promote diversity and inclusion. There are some of these activities listed on the Board of Education's website, which we'll have a link to later in this video. And again, this supposedly went into effect the 21-22 academic year, but the question is, to what degree has it kind of gone into effect in your school or community? And how can we continue to push our communities to live up to these ideals and continue to teach truth? And the last one that we're going to talk about in this video, but again, is not representative of all of the sort of bills that we have on the books in New Jersey, is the AAPI Inclusion Act. And the AAPI Inclusion Act is sort of a two-parter, similar to the Amistad Act. So the Amistad Act it had the curriculum as well as the commission to sort of oversee that. And the AAPI, the Asian American Pacific Islander Act, also developed this sort of commission to oversee the implementation of this sort of curriculum. So this law passed in January 18th, 2022, and effective immediately, they were supposed to gather this commission and elect to appoint people to it so that they could get together resources so that it could be implemented this academic year, 2022-2023. Specifically, in terms of the commission, is tasked with developing policies to improve the community, economic, social well-being, health, and educational needs important to AAPI communities in New Jersey. They're supposed to develop and coordinate statewide programs, recognizing the continuing contributions of AAPI individuals across the state, and draw upon the membership's knowledge and expertise to create activities designed to better educate all citizens in New Jersey on AAPI issues and culture, especially in our schools in terms of curriculum. And finally, to increase the awareness among AAPI individuals of government affairs and community and social services that may benefit them and the communities as a whole. So again, one of the laws that we have on the books in New Jersey, and we want to make sure our schools have implemented them and that we're pushing them to continue with their implementation of these laws in our schools and community so that we can teach truth.
If the information provided so far has not been a reason for you to join us on Saturday, June 10th, know that the issue of book bans is being taken up in the New Jersey legislature. At the end of May, just recently, Senator Teresa Ruiz, along with members in the Assembly, have proposed a bill that will prohibit book banning in public libraries and schools, and also authorizes withholding of state aid for noncompliance. So in this bill, Senator Ruiz is proposing that no public libraries are allowed to ban or restrict access to a book or other resource in its collection because of partisan or doctrinal disapproval. And it also is proposing that public libraries around the state are required to adopt the American Library Association's Library Bill of Rights, protecting the future of our public libraries and the information as contained in them. You can click on the link for an NJ Monitor article that gives more information. We need to stop book banning, and it definitely starts here in New Jersey.
Throughout this video, we've been talking about various curriculum laws that have been passed in New Jersey that we can use to justify the teaching of truth in our classrooms. So if you're looking for particular resources for any of these curriculum bills to help with your implementation or to begin with your implementation or to send along to community members to support them in their implementation, there are lots of resources available to you. So this slide contains Amistad Act resources across grade levels and content areas even that you can use to either start thinking about or continue thinking about how to implement the Amistad Act and live up to its ideals in your classroom. This slide contains the same for LGBT Inclusion Act resources, especially that Garden State Equality and Make It Better for Youth resource hub, which is the Garden State Equality education page. Disability Inclusion Act resources are available on this, again, across grade levels, across content areas. And we have AAPI inclusion resources on this page of the slide deck, as well as Diversity Inclusion Act resources on this final slide. So now that we've learned a little bit more about how New Jersey laws support educators in their quest to teach truth, we invite you to come and join us on June 10th for a Teach Truth National Day of Action and stand up for the teaching of truth in our schools and community. We will be located at sites across the state of New Jersey, including Newark at the Harriet Tubman statue, in Madison, probably at the Rosedale Ice Skating Rink, though the air quality conditions might change that. At Red Bank, first at the T. Thomas Fortune Cultural Center, and then later in the day at Pride in the Park, and then in Princeton at the Princeton Battle Monument. We hope that you'll join us and continue in the fight to teach truth across the state of New Jersey. Thank you. To access these slides and more, visit the Teach Truth New Jersey resource page at bit.ly/Teach Truth New Jersey 2023.